It is Tuesday, November 18th. This is the afternoon shift. I'm Adam Llorens.
I'm Max Fuller. Oh, the fro is looking real lopsided right now. I just got to adjust. Mid, a.k.a. Maxie Mouse.
Okay. Yes.
You a
yes.
Mickey Mouse fan?
The 97th birthday of old Mickey Mouse.
It is indeed. We might touch on that later. It is but Mickey Mouse, almost a centenarian.
Yes.
As they say, almost 100 years old.
Yes.
The old Steamboat Willie.
Yes.
A.k.a. Frida Kahlo.
Yeah. Oh, nope.
You never heard of Frida Kahlo? You never heard of Frida Kahlo, the Mexican surrealist painter?
Okay.
Yes,
I have heard of
for
Frida.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, she's as famous for her painting as she is for her signature
unibrow. The unibrow, right.
Yes. Unibrow that everybody knows her for. Her probably the most famous, her and Anthony Davis, neck and neck for the most famous unibrow.
100%.
Maybe in history.
100%.
A.k.a. Frida Kahlo.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's Frida Kahlo, Frida Kahlo is one of those 2-for-1s again. You know,
yeah, no. Unfamiliar with Frida. Yeah.
So you didn't know Frida.
She could walk in this door right now.
I don't think she's walking in. I don't think she's walking anywhere right now.
She's since gone. From
yeah,
us.
I think she's gone from. But maybe she could paint us a picture. That would be
fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
So, a.k.a. a million other things. Welcome back to the afternoon show.
I love the Barcelona jersey. That's my last name has its roots in Catalonia.
No way.
España.
Yeah.
I haven't been.
Sure. I got it straight from the source when I was in Barcelona. You got to say it with the.
That's right.
The signature.
That's right.
City lisp.
Yes.
Barcelona. And that's not a shot at them. That's actually how they prefer.
Sure is.
That you pronounce it, Barcelona. I got it from one of the bootleg vendors, the very own Lionel Messi, greatest footballer, perhaps in history.
Yeah. Apparently, my last name is like Johnson over there.
Maybe it's just super popular.
There's a lot of Lorenzes in Barcelona. Yeah,
and it's not like it was never Llorens because it's got the double L.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Llorens. Llorar in Spanish is to cry. Which I do a lot of.
Yeah,
I do a lot of crying. So that somewhere down the line, there was a big crier in my family, or somebody whined.
Somebody was crying on Ellis Island or something.
I don't know if my family arrived on Ellis Island. I don't think they came via Ellis Island. I love the people on Ellis Island. I really do. They didn't come via Ellis Island though. No, they were from Louisiana.
For sure.
Yeah, but
I get what you mean.
But that the Spanish soldiers that were there, and they had they made families with different people. But that's where my last name comes from. So somebody was a whiner. Somebody was a whiner.
Somebody was a crier back in the day.
Yeah, no Irish or Italian roots in me. None of that. That was most of Ellis Island was Irish and Italian, but not me. No.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Paul Milgate maybe got here via Ellis Island. Maybe or not, or just Delta Airlines, right, Paul?
Yeah, I just flew over Delta. Yes.
They didn't give you a new name.
They didn't give me a new name. No, they didn't.
Would you change your name if you could? If you came to, did you ever think about coming to America, just becoming a totally different person?
Well, I did think about changing my name. My wife's maiden name is Paulson, so I thought about becoming Paul Paulson.
Paul Paulson. That'd be a good TV name.
It would be a really good on-air name, Paul Paulson, living in St. Paul. But no, I decided to keep the old Millgate. Yeah. So can you just fill me in on the Ellis Island tradition? So they would turn up and you would change your name at Ellis Island?
Basically, they a lot of the times they'd give you a new name. They'd say, "Hey, this is too ethnic. Here's we'll shorten it." So many different names. They'll have a similar name that was their name back, on the homeland, and then they got to Ellis Island. They're like, and then somebody's trying to shorten it up, make it a little bit more. I don't know. I guess Western sounding, and so they would change people's name often. Yeah,
wow.
And then obviously what Adam was alluding to is that his last name probably did not come from Ellis Island. Probably came via slave owners.
Yes. Yeah. But no, it's not no offense at anybody at Ellis Island. It was immigration, and that was all.
That's just like that's like the way that people came into the country. There was other ways illegally.
Correct.
That was way people came in legally, but people were illegally brought over here.
Yes.
In servitude.
Of course, in The Godfather, Vito Corleone. Corleone was named in the city in Italy where they came from. I think the name was Andolini or Andoloni or whatever, but they changed it. They got mixed up, and they were like, "Oh, you're Corleone." And then,
exactly.
And that's it.
And that's the other thing. It wasn't even something to go back to Paul's question. It wasn't even something they thought about most of the time. They'd be like, "Oh, maybe you were." Yeah, exactly. Maybe you're from Sicily. Okay, you're Tony Sicily now. Next, you know, like they had a million people in line. They didn't care.
Yes,
they were very insensitive.
Yes.
There's your Ellis Island lesson for today.
It happens organically. It's unbelievable how it all happens.
The more you know.
I know you're speechless, Paul. We can't hear you. Yes.
I was just saying that's my fun fact that I've learned from today. I learned about Ellis Island. There you go.
Look at that.
In the first 5 minutes of the show.
5 minutes.
Always learning something. The more you know.
Love it. We have a great show planned out for everybody today. Sure. We have a legend joining us coming up next. This is the guy. If you have a problem, I know that. What is it? The TSR time here in Minnesota?
TSR time, yeah. Oh,
this is TSR time times 10, and this is big time.
Yeah.
Not that TSR time isn't big time, but Lanny Davis, if you got some cash, he can help you out.
For sure.
He can help you out.
Former advisor to President Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Also did some work under George W. Bush as well.
Martha Stewart.
Yeah, for sure. I had clients like Martha Stewart. I mean, the guy's he's been all around the block in terms of crisis management. And I don't know if you guys have read the news lately, but there are some political scandals and crises that we wanted to inquire about. So we called up old Lanny, and he was gracious enough to give us some of his time.
Yes. So we'll have a conversation with him. Of course, if you've been keeping up with the news today, you've probably seen the House voting on the release of the Epstein files, which nearly unanimously passed. There was only one person that voted nay, Representative Clay Higgins from Louisiana. Everybody else voted in favor of that. So we're going to have some highlights from the House floor, of course, and then we'll transition the conversation into Wolves. They're in Ely, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Is that good? Is that bad? We're not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of far away from the Target Center. I don't know why they would be there. I mean, they're supposed to be playing in Minneapolis. It'd be cool to see Naz Reid and I have a feeling you're not talking about the Timberwolves, are you?
Well, we are going to talk about the Timberwolves. We did win last night.
Yeah.
We did win last night. But these are the real Wolves. Real Wolves.
Okay, yes. I've been reading about that as well. Lots of wolf sightings around Ely, and it sparked some conversation, maybe even some consternation about wolves and their status on the endangered list.
Yeah, pretty much our whole 4 p.m. hour will be dedicated to wolves of both the actual variety and the basketball variety. And then this just got booked by our very own Grace Henry. There was a pretty big incident in St. Paul earlier today. There was a clash between protesters and these federal officials and whatever. Yeah. We have somebody that was on the site from the Pioneer Press. They're going to be joining the show today too.
The primary source, the source that's being cited the most by pretty much all articles, I believe, including Fox9.com as well, our own articles on it as well. Protesters clashing with ICE agents after they popped up, and I believe they took somebody out of a building and arrested them. I don't know what you call it when they show up. Arrested them, and they clashed with protesters there, and it sounded like it was a pretty ugly scene. So super curious to hear what it was like directly from the source. Yep,
his name is Frederick Mello. He'll be joining us coming up in this hour as well. We did talk a little bit about Mickey Mouse. Let's give Mickey Mouse his flowers.
Sure.
97 years old today. Yeah. Mickey Mouse, the debut of Steamboat Willie on this date back in 1928.
7 minutes and 47 seconds in total.
Yeah.
And the world was never the same after that.
Yes. Mickey Mouse, of course, it spawned a whole brand and company and theme parks and the whole deal. And
fun fact for you: do you know what Mickey Mouse was almost named?
Oh,
it wasn't Mickey.
Oh, okay.
Mortimer. His name, Walt Disney wanted to name him Mortimer Mouse. Luckily for him, he had a wife, and his wife correctly thought that sounded a little too stuffy, a little too pompous.
Yeah.
She said, let's go with Mickey. Can't imagine they would have built the same empire with Mortimer Mouse. Morty Mouse. It doesn't have the same ring to it.
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
It doesn't. So shout out to Mickey Mouse. Steamboat Willie was one of the first cartoons with synchronized sound.
Amazing.
You know that.
I mean, well ahead of its time.
Yeah, way ahead of its time, and changed the game, changed the world. But I implore you, if you like Mickey Mouse, probably don't go back and watch that Steamboat Willie.
It's 97 years old today.
It is, but
history,
there's some unflattering inspirations that you could maybe see a little bit more clearly in his first iteration that have since been filtered out.
Yes.
Fortunately, as times have changed. But if you really, really, really like Mickey, maybe not go back and watch Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, well, if you're going to watch Steamboat Willie, make sure it's after the Fox 5 News. Make sure it's not when our programming is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
We want you to stay
It is in public domain, so.
It is in public domain. We could play it on the afternoon.
We sure?
If we wanted to.
Why not?
maybe if we have time to burn it in,
let's play it.
Do it.
Yeah, throw it in.
Before we get to Steamboat Willie, potentially, we are going to be talking, like I said, to Lanny J. Davis, the father of the college basketball writer Seth Davis. I just learned that
really?
from Grace. Grace told us that he kept that very under wraps.
Wow.
But, that's his father. Yep.
What a legend in multiple ways.
In multiple ways. Lanny J. Davis providing some perspective on the Epstein files. That is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Been in a situation and you need to call somebody that can kind of help you out?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm usually that person for people to call.
Yeah.
Like one time my friend, he was in a sticky situation. I faked being his dad on the phone. He got in trouble. Yeah, and I had to talk to another parent. The other person, his girlfriend at the time, I had to talk to her father, and I pretended to be his father. We had a great conversation about kids these days. What an idiot.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been in many a sticky situation that I could have used some advice.
Yeah, well, there's a guy. This is the go-to guy to call for highly publicized political leaders in Washington. They've been calling him for years. Not you, but maybe someday.
Maybe.
It could be you someday.
Who knows?
His clients have ranged from President Bill Clinton to Martha Stewart. His name is Lanny J. Davis, and he joins us now. Mr. Davis, welcome to the afternoon shift. How are you, sir?
Thank you. I was going to add that when I get a phone call, it's never, "Hey, Lanny, I've got great news for you."
Except for this one. Except for this one. We're happy to have you here on the afternoon shift. You are a very high-profile attorney, lots of big clients. We're bringing you on here to obviously talk about the Epstein case. Maybe we'll just start out with this. What do we know so far about this case?
What's very bizarre is that the only thing we know is very non-harm facts about President Trump. He was a friend of Epstein before anybody knew that he was a subhuman species who was a predator of young women, young girls. And at that time, I don't think that Donald Trump, there's any evidence that he knew that. they were friends. There were many photographs of them. That's facts he can't delete. I don't know why he doesn't just say, yes, we were friends. No, I didn't know that he was a predator. And then he wouldn't be in the fix he's in.
Now, we've seen kind of a stunning reversal from Donald Trump in terms of he's been, was holding private meetings with Republicans, trying to get them to not put their signature on this to get the files released. And now all of a sudden he's saying that they should be released. We have nothing to hide. Do you think, like, as someone that would have been in this situation, kind of advising him in the past, like, do you think that reversal helps or harms him?
Well, it's compounded his problem. Normally he's brilliant at branding. He really does have instincts in the public relations arena from his experiences in New York. It's one of the few compliments I'm willing to give Mr. Trump is he's always understood the need to get out in front of a bad story. But on this occasion, he seems to have doubled down on violating all the fundamental rules of Crisis Management 101, and it's a mystery to me. It looks like he's trying to hide something, but he's not. So then I can't understand why he's mishandled it so the way he has.
Mr. Davis, if you were advising the president right now, if you were on his legal team, what would be your message to him?
It's never too late to make a course correction. In crisis management, usually there are mistakes made in the beginning where you try to hide bad facts thinking that they're not going to come out. And my rule of thumb is they are going to come out, so you might as well put them out yourself and explain them. And if there's no explanation because they're so bad, you own them. And it's a pretty simple formula, but it's counterintuitive. Now I would say to President Trump, you've already compounded your problem by making it seem as if you're hiding something. You can't undo what you've already done. I would hold a press conference and say, I really screwed up. I had nothing to hide. I knew Epstein. We were friends at Mar-a-Lago and in New York, but I never had anything to do with his younger women. I repudiate and denounce what he did. And I don't know why anyone is accusing me of wrongdoing because I did nothing wrong other than not being a very good crisis manager. Something like that would be helpful if he was willing to do that. Of course, I don't think he is willing to do that.
So say the House votes yes as expected today. Kind of what's the next steps from there? What do you think President Trump does from there?
He's already compounded the issue by having the House do anything. All he needs to do is announce and put the documents out. He hasn't explained why he needs the House or the Senate other than his effort to try to stop them from putting something out when he wasn't willing to. But if he's willing to, why is he waiting for the House and the Senate? Why doesn't he hold a press conference, bring in all the boxes? This is what I did at one point in my career. And I invite in all the media. Here are all the boxes of all the documents. I just got them over from the Justice Department. Open them up, read them all. I'll be back in an hour to answer all your questions. Now, that's a man who has nothing to hide. He's doing the right thing in crisis management rules, which is to get your facts out early yourself and get it over with and end the story. So that's what he should have done, what he still could do. He doesn't have to wait for the House, for goodness sakes. Why is he waiting for anyone? He can call Pam Bondi and say, send the boxes over. So that's my advice to him, but I don't think he's listening to people like me.
You never know. The president could be watching the afternoon shift.
I doubt it, but you never know.
You never know. Mr. Davis, let's just speak hypothetically here. Let's say the president. Let's say it comes out that obviously he said he was friends with him. He was a member at his club in Palm Beach, Mar-a-Lago. They were friendly. He dropped him from Mar-a-Lago after he says that he discovered that all of these allegations kind of came across with him. If that's what comes out, what do you think? What's sort of the aftermath of this? What do you think happens to the president going forward?
I think if he owns that he made mistakes, which I don't think he's ever done, it's against his basic nature to admit a mistake. But if he does that, it's over. This story has never had any legs as soon as he admitted, yes, I knew Epstein. Yes, I didn't like what he did with young women now that I've read about it, young girls. And that's over. So that's really the only answer I can give you is he can cut the losses. There's no way to undo the damage he's done to himself by acting as if he has something to hide. which everybody knows that's the way he's acted. But he has nothing to hide other than he doesn't want people to know he was a friend of Epstein's. Well, there are plenty of photographs we already know, so why deny that? So I don't think there's anything to lose by his just doing the right thing and undoing the damage. But he seems to have this instinct to make things worse by not stepping up and saying, you know, I really messed up by acting like I had something to hide. I was a friend of this guy. I don't approve of what he did. But I don't think he'll do that because it's contrary to his nature to take responsibility.
Now, we keep saying, like, if you were advising the president, you were advising a former president back in the day, former President Bill Clinton. Kind of what, take us through kind of like what your day-to-day was like. Like, what was your job like advising the president?
Early on, I worked on campaign finance, alleged violations or abuses in his presidential campaign of 1996. So when I inherited the job, there were a lot of stories unwritten about some of the mistakes made in raising money, which is never a pretty thing in any campaign, Republican or Democrat. So what we ended up doing is finding all of the somewhat ill-advised or mistaken campaign fundraising stories that reporters were working on. We identified which ones we thought were coming from the reporters themselves, and we volunteered the documents and systematically put the stories out ourselves. Sometimes we would use the word leak by calling a reporter and say, would you like to write a story? Here are all the documents. In other cases, we would respond to the reporter writing the story and say, we'll hand you over all the documents so you can write a complete and accurate story. In other words, we were proactive, even volunteering bad stories that they hadn't known about, because we wanted to get it all over with before the Senate held nationally televised hearings. When the late Senator Fred Thompson of Tennessee conducted those hearings, he made a joke at one point saying, today we're having a topic about fundraising tactics that even Lanny Davis won't say is old news. And of course, that brought a lot of laughter in the room. But that was the strategies to make everything old news by putting the bad facts out ourselves.
It's a good strategy, not just for political leaders, but I think for all of us to kind of just, it really boils down to just owning your mistake and admitting your mistakes when they happen and moving on from them. And, you know, Mr. Davis, the President Trump, he's certainly had his share of scandals before, and it doesn't really seem to stop him. He continues to win elections and remains for his party, for certain members of his party, wildly popular. Do you think that the Epstein files can bring him down necessarily, or do you think that this is just going to be sort of another, you know, kind of wind in the dust when it's all said and done?
Everybody knows what the truth is. It's one of those things where the truth is so obvious that nobody needs, even his supporters know that he's embarrassed about his friendship with Mr. Epstein. And Mr. Epstein and he had many photographs together when they were friends. So there's no mystery. It's not as if he's revealing anything new. What's remarkable is he's acting as if we don't already know that he's embarrassed by all these photographs and all these emails that will reference him. But so far, there's been no evidence that he participated in this disgusting behavior involving young girls. And it looks to me that he is disapproved of this behavior. So why not just own that he had a friendship with Epstein and now he's repudiating all of the disgusting behavior and exploitation and honor the victims and talk about the victims. If I were giving him advice, I guess he's not asking for my advice. I would say just step up, Mr. President, and talk to the victims and take responsibility for not doing this yourself earlier by putting all these documents out yourself. You didn't need a resolution in Congress. All you had to do is Pam Bondi said she was going to do it, and all of a sudden she froze when they might have said, oh my God, his name are in these emails. So what? He should have said, put him out and I'll explain why my name are in these documents. That's looking back in history. Now he can't do anything other than simply own, you know, I really messed up. I had nothing to hide. That would be the only way he gets out of this in any way that doesn't have damage. And I don't think he escapes damage.
Lanny, you clearly still got your jump shot. You still got good advice out here to give, but you're not advising the president any longer. What are you up to these days?
I would love to get my jump shot back. I was a high school mediocre basketball player, had a pretty good jump shot. I'm actually working on a book, if you don't mind me shamelessly plugging. It will be out in January 2026 in time for the midterms. And the book is Finding the Third Way, which is the Bill Clinton vocabulary, that there's something other than trying to solve problems by left versus right. He looked for a third way that found common ground. And so I kind of told the story of my life, and that thread that I learned ultimately from Bill Clinton worked so well for the country. And I tell the story with the book title, Finding the Third Way.
And what a great message that is, and a message that I think everybody in America today could use. Lanny J. Davis, you're a legend. We appreciate you joining the afternoon shift. Thank you so much.
I have to add, my children say I'm a legend in my own mind, but never mind. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
You and I have a lot of photos together. You're not gonna scrub those one day, right?
Talking. Me and Lanny have our own private community. We have our own private communication channel. We're working on getting my photos.
That's your representation, and I just don't. Sure. That's how we booked the guest.
That's how we booked the guest. Okay. Yeah, I pretended like when Grace was like, "Yeah, this guy." I was like, "Yeah,
yeah.
What?"
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you think he charges per hour? What do you?
I don't even want to know.
Lots of money.
Yeah, probably more than we make in a year.
Yes.
I mean, when you used to advise the president, former or otherwise, which sounds, President Trump is not the only one that could use Lanny's advice.
No doubt.
Right now, if you read the headlines lately. So, we could all use a Lanny in our life.
No doubt. And I think the point of that conversation was, hey, the truth will always set you free, right?
Yeah.
You just have to
own up to it.
Own up to speak, acknowledge, move on.
Yeah.
Sounds simple. It's not so simple, though.
For sure.
Yeah.
And obviously, we should say, we usually like to pretend like, oh, this is live and stuff like that. We should say this is before the vote. This is pre-recorded today, early Tuesday morning, and the vote will be later today in the House on whether or not to release these files. Or at least that'll be the first step in doing so.
Absolutely. We appreciate you all joining, and we'll be back right after this. shift. Max, you remember like Schoolhouse Rock? I'm just a bill.
Yeah, I'm just a bill sitting on Capitol. 3's a magic number.
That's right.
There was a bunch of bangers in Schoolhouse Rock.
That's right. I wonder if, I'm just a bill. That's everything from, just like basic like environmental funding stuff
right.
to the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's
right.
all the same thing at the core.
It's all the same. It's all the same bill that's just sitting there on Capitol Hill.
That's right. That's right. So that bill went through the House floor today, and of course, if you saw Schoolhouse Rock, you know that bill was going to go to the Senate. The House was the first stop. It nearly unanimously passed. There was one person that voted nay, Representative Clay Higgins of Louisiana. We do have some highlights of that. We are going to roll those in now.
I proudly rise today in a bipartisan effort to release the Epstein files, finally, after 5 administrations have covered it up. Earlier today, I attended the press conference where the survivors, they're not victims, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse and sex trafficking told their stories. And they told stories about how it started back in 1991, 1996, and they continued on through the decades. And they told stories about how they told someone and tried to get help. They told the FBI, and they weren't listened to. And they told law enforcement, and no one did anything. And these women don't just number a few. These women number around 1,000 women. And they are victims of something that's unthinkable. And this should have never, ever happened. This was the biggest fight I think I've seen in Washington, D.C. This is my 5th year here. And this was a fight that we should have never had to wage. It should have been the easiest thing for every single member of Congress. It should have been the easiest thing for the Speaker of the House. It should have been the easiest thing for the President of the United States to release all the information, every single file, on behalf of these American women. These American women aren't rich, powerful elites. They do not have someone paying for their airline tickets or paying for their trips or paying for their expenses every time they try to do something to get this information out. These are your average Americans. And you want to know what the Epstein files represent, the cover-up represents to average Americans? It represents the failures of the federal government and Congress to the American people. And that is what people rose up about in 2024. They wanted and demanded transparency from their government and for Americans finally to be put first. And today, with this vote, we are finally putting these victims and these survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and the cabal of rich, powerful elites that expands not just here in the United States of America, but to other countries as well. We're putting them last. And that is exactly what Americans want. You see, for far too long, Americans have been put last. And they're sick of it. They're sick and tired of it. And this is why they don't trust Congress. This is why they don't trust the government. And here's the problem. All of these women who have suffered in shame for years and years and years, women who were terrified, women who were intimidated, women who were threatened, just like Virginia Giuffre. And now she's dead. And these women should have never faced that, for this information to come out. And we, especially the 4 Republican members of the House of Representatives, we should have never faced intimidation and threats for us to get this vote to come to the floor. Never forget, there were 4. Thomas Massie, myself, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. We had to sign a discharge petition, and we had to fight through intimidation, and we had to endure it for months to push that discharge petition finally to 218 to get this vote to come out. This is what the American people are sick of, and rightfully so. Now, where does this go from here? The question will remain, Will the Department of Justice release all the information? Will a judge in New York release the information? Will the CIA release the information? And will foreign governments release their information? Or will this continue after this vote today be a cover-up? A cover-up of the rich, powerful elites that bond together in sex and human trafficking abuse and all types of global business that enriches them but never serves Americans. The American people will know, and the victims, actually the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, will know because they know the list of names. And I remain dedicated to my promise to read those names here on the House floor if those women ever find them in a place that it needs to be done.
For 43 long days, the Democrats held this House and the entire country hostage. Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our regular legislative session. We have a lot of work to do. My colleagues on this side of the chamber are ready and eager to get back to our urgent legislative work that we promised the American people we would do. We've got to continue lowering the cost of health care. We've got to bring down prices for American families, and we've got to finish the regular appropriations process, just to name a few of those priorities. And I wish I could say that our first order of business would be to get to those urgent priorities, but of course we're here spending time on the floor about something else. This is something we could have resolved last week when we brought a unanimous consent to pass this discharge with the full support of the body. But our friends over here who are arguing today stalled that. They objected to it, and they wanted to have this exercise instead. And that's why we say that this is a show vote. That's what this is. They're making a show of it. And it really is a shame. We have some heroic women in the chamber today. I met with many of them a while back. They're in the gallery here. They have come forward. They have shown their faces. They've used their names to share the unspeakable tragedies that many of them were subjected to, some of them when they were very young. And it is a heroic service to the country. They are seeking justice, and the justice has been delayed for too long. The Department of Justice, many years ago, should have brought these charges. It took too long to do it. And now we're in this process of making sure all the American people get the information, but we have to do it in the right way, After 4 years of Democrat control under President Biden, they were not truthful with us about a lot of things. The Democrats insisted the border was secure. We knew it wasn't. They insisted that inflation was transitory. We knew it wouldn't be. They misled the American people about the obvious mental and physical decline of the previous commander-in-chief. And now those same Democrats are demanding transparency. Suddenly, transparency is their new word. Out of nowhere, they've taken a curious concern in the Epstein investigation, all in the name of that, in the name of transparency. But the question has been asked here many times during the debate on the floor, and everybody questioning why it is that Democrats have done this right now have to look at the obvious facts. The Democrats had all the Epstein files in their possession for 4 long years under the Biden presidency. The Biden Department of Justice had these files, and no one on this side who is breathless today about the urgency of this release ever said a word about it. And it was the Democrats who could have urged President Biden's Department of Justice to go beyond prosecuting just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but they didn't do it. And so it's a fair question to ask today, why now? Why the sudden urgent interest in Jeffrey Epstein? Look, we know why. It's because the Democrats were never interested in transparency or executing justice or protecting the victims of this unspeakable tragedy before. The simple truth is obvious for everybody to see. This is a political exercise for Democrats, and it pains me to say it. I wish that was not the truth, but it is, and it's undeniable. This is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt was to shut the government down. Democrats are using the Epstein tragedy, the unspeakable evils that this guy committed with his trafficking ring and all of the abuses that they made these young women go through. They're using that as a political weapon to try to distract from their failures as a party and to try their best to try to tie President Trump somehow into this wretched scandal. The president had nothing to do with it. He's been very clear, and he has nothing to hide, and that's why he's endorsed the vote today. I suspect this vote will be probably unanimous. But here's the important point that everybody needs to understand. We have been advocates of maximum transparency, but we have also insisted that the victims be carefully protected. The Oversight Committee has been doing extraordinary work, and we've got some of the most vigorous advocates on the Republican and Democrat side on the Oversight Committee. They've been working in earnest to deliver transparency for the American people and to do it in a responsible manner. What do we mean by that? The bipartisan effort over there is already producing all the results that the discharge petition seeks and much, much more. Chairman Comer and all of these advocates over there have been releasing thousands of documents, for example, from the Epstein estate. And by the way, in my view, that's been the greatest treasure trove of information because it's yielded for us Epstein's own personal flight logs, his financial records, his daily calendars, and so much more. But importantly, none of that was addressed or is addressed in the legislation that's being voted on today. The estate files wouldn't even have been encompassed in that. And so it goes to show that the Oversight Committee is doing it from the right way. From the very beginning, we've been insistent that this matter be handled carefully and with the utmost caution and care for the people who have been harmed. They should not be made to suffer any longer. We're talking about real people's lives at stake here, and young victims who don't want to be dragged into this political game that could get hurt further. But the Democrats are rushing the release of thousands of unsubstantiated documents that may be included in this, that are going to be in the public domain with the passage of this bill. And there are serious deficiencies in the legislation that I have noted at length, and Republicans have to work to address those deficiencies in the Senate if and when this legislation is advanced. I stood before the American public today at our press conference, and I explained in detail the dangers of the discharge petition. We have posted at my website, speaker.gov, a summary. The legal counsel, a small army of lawyers, put this together. I used to be a federal court litigator. Many of my colleagues who've spoken today were. We understand the dangers of how this was haphazardly drawn up. And among them, by the way, Mr. Speaker, before I forget, I seek unanimous consent to enter into this document into the record. It's on the website. It's entitled, How the Flaws of H.R. 4405 Could Re-Victimize Epstein's Victims, Create New Victims, and Damage the Judicial System. It is dated today. Thank you. And it summarizes just 5 or 6 of the major concerns. Among them, it fails to fully protect victim privacy. It could create new categories of victims. It potentially jeopardizes grand jury secrecy. It fails to prohibit release of child sexual abuse materials that are not appropriately defined in the legislation. It jeopardizes future federal investigations, and we have national security concerns regarding classified information. We'll put this in the record because we need the legislative record to reflect what is the legislative intent behind this vote. I used to litigate cases. We would litigate federal statutes and whether or not they could survive, and legislative intent is important. And we need to say clearly for the record, as a Speaker of the House, I'm saying to you, this legislation that will pass today is flawed and it must be amended. The question is, why didn't we amend it here before we passed it? Because the authors won't allow it. Because under the rules of the House, under a discharge petition, they have to agree to consent for the legislation to be amended, and they're not doing that. So now we rely upon our partners in the other chamber to get that done, and they need to do that. The victims deserve our utmost respect. In fact, they should be saluted for their courage. And the young women who have not come forward, who are now, some of them are middle-aged women who have not come forward, also deserve our respect, and they deserve to be protected. Republicans support transparency. We want maximum transparency, especially when it comes to disclosing the names of anybody who had anything to do with these evils, anybody who conspired with or aided in any way Jeffrey Epstein. They must be brought to justice. We want the bill to be amended so it doesn't, at the same time, violate victim privacy, create new victims, disclose the names of any whistleblower or informant, cause the release of grand jury materials or child sexual abuse materials, or undermine our national security. And if and when the Senate takes this up, we will work with our colleagues over there to make sure that these things are corrected. I'll just close with this simple thought. We've been at this a while. It's drug on for a while, but it's time for this to come to light. I expect that this will be a unanimous vote, and it will reflect what I think every member in this chamber, and I'll say this now, at least in recent days, every member of the chamber on the Democrat side, they didn't say anything for 4 years, but they're for maximum transparency now, and so is this side. But we want to do it in a respectful and careful manner so that we don't subject innocent people to further harm. And that has been the whole thing. I told all my members today I'll be voting yes on this, and I suspect almost everyone will. We'll send it to the Senate, and we hope it's corrected. Thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
There were some. Those are some highlights from the House floor today. We just heard from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and Speaker Mike Johnson. It wasn't quite a unanimous vote. Like I said, there was one nay vote, but it's moved on and it'll go to the Senate tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Curious to see how that ends up, and curious to hear the reaction from that one nay vote and the explanation behind that one.
Yeah, I think it's a long tweet, but Representative Clay Higgins put out a tweet basically explaining himself on that. But yeah, no, it was a fascinating day in Washington, and we'll continue to bring the latest on all the revelations of this case.
Absolutely.
Yes. We are going to take a break. There was a bit of a clash today in St. Paul between some protesters and some federal agents, including ICE. We have somebody that was on the ground covering that. Frederick Mello from the Pioneer Press. He'll be joining us next. Don't go anywhere. Back to the afternoon shift. It was a very eventful day in Minnesota's capital city of St. Paul. There was a clash between some protesters and some federal agents, including ICE among them.
Yeah, for sure. There was all types of federal agents there. Came in, detained a couple of people. We don't know fully. I don't think we know all the details on how many people were detained, and then a clash with some protesters on their way out as well.
Yes, Frederick Mello from the Pioneer Press was on the scene and recorded this video. We're going to roll in this video right now. There's no audio on this video. But there you see the perspective of Frederick, and it just
those protesters surrounding a car of a federal agent, I believe.
Yes. We know that Mayor Melvin Carter was on the scene. He called the federal response a, quote, ICE operation, but said he had very few details about the actual incident. And there again, you see some just clashing between some federal agents. Yep.
At some point here, I believe a chemical irritant was unleashed via the federal agents on some of the protesters there.
The ICE office in St. Paul put out this statement. Today in St. Paul, ICE, HSI, and law enforcement partners conducted, court-authorized law enforcement activity and served a search warrant in furtherance of a federal criminal investigation. There is no threat to public safety, and the investigation remains ongoing at this time. It's a very complex story, a lot of things that people don't really know. But one person that was there, like I said, we just rolled in his video, was Frederick Mello from the Pioneer Press, and he joins us now. Fred, what's going on? Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it too.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Can you just tell us what exactly did you see? What happened down there?
Well, as you can see in the video, when I got there, the crowd was already there. I mean, they had already taken, I heard one person removed from the building. We later heard 3 people removed from the building. We don't know. It's still a little fuzzy. But when I got there, the crowd was really hemming in. Some of the agents, the guys I saw had DEA on the back of their kind of gear. But we don't even know if that was the primary agency involved. There are definitely several different ones, and there was just a lot of pushing. At the end of that video, you see everyone running, including myself. That's because they were spraying kind of overhead, and all the chemical everything was falling. So I was getting the heck out of Dodge, and you could hear the audio on my Twitter. I let out a pretty big F-bomb at that point. So maybe not safe for families, but yeah. And then they eventually took their cars and kind of drove down Territorial Road with people kicking the cars, kicking the doors, kicking the back. The cars were actually pushing people to the ground. And eventually they got out of there and drove on. So a lot of people sprayed. At least one attorney, bystander, observer arrested, and then an unknown number of people detained.
Oh yeah, you just mentioned some of the details right there. Have ICE come out or any of these federal agencies? I guess who exactly? I'll just take a step back. Who exactly was involved? What is their stated reason for being there? And I guess what are some of the more details? Because it sounds like it's pretty fuzzy as of right now.
Yeah, I think fuzzy is the right word. Molly Coleman, who's the city council member representing that area, said they can confirm that Homeland Security Investigations was on site. ICE was on site. It looks like the DEA was on site. We have a statement from kind of the local ICE field office saying that they were working with their partners on some kind of criminal investigation, and they basically executed a criminal action. We don't know what that means. There's a whole range of things that could be considered criminal. Whether it's a violent act or something that had no violence at all. So we don't really know. We haven't seen a warrant. The mayor showed up and he said, "Hey, we're not included in this." No St. Paul police were involved. No Ramsey County sheriff's deputies were involved. The mayor's office was not involved, other than arriving after the fact and checking on injured parties. So we don't know exactly what level of investigation this was. There were people that had armor on or gear on that said DEA, which is drug enforcement, obviously. But again, anything I say would be conjecture on that point.
Frederick Mello, you are the St. Paul City reporter for the Pioneer Press. Is this the first case of an ICE clash in the city of St. Paul that you can remember? Of course, there was the ICE clash with protesters on Lake Street in Minneapolis several months ago. But in St. Paul, is this the first real one that you can remember?
Yeah, I believe this is the first one. I'm not going to say this is the first time ICE has been active in the city, executing a criminal warrant or arresting someone. But in terms of actual clashes between protesters, I mean, there were dozens of people there. There were people of all ages. I saw seniors there. I saw fairly young people. People mobilized really quickly. There were alerts that went out on Facebook. I got it from Facebook, email, and text message pretty much all at the same time. So there are groups that are mobilized. Groups like 5051, which I think is a Minneapolis-based group that's been working with homeless encampments and kind of pro-democracy actions, they'd call it. But there were other groups too. And as soon as people were hit with the irritant, they were there, administering water to their eyes and just helping out where they could.
Yeah, you just alluded to it right there, and obviously we can see a lot of consternation in the video that you took that's circulating social media and being cited in lots of different articles there. But kind of just you being on the scene, talking to people, hearing from people, what was the general kind of reaction from people on the scene there in St. Paul?
Well, I think it was outrage. I mean, there's a sense that it's not just ICE detaining people, but that democracy itself is being challenged on some level, and the folks that kind of respond that quickly want to be the counterforce against these, in their minds, threats to democracy. They, were saying things like no justice, no peace. You don't have to be here. Just trying to get their displeasure across with some of these federal actions. Again, we don't know the details. We don't know kind of what prompted these federal actions, whether it was a drug situation or something totally unrelated. So it's hard to say from the outside, but they were not happy. And you had people of all ages, all walks of life, and people getting physically injured, and they didn't leave. They got treated at the scene, and they stayed and gave statements to the media. They really didn't want these federal agents there.
Frederick, do you know what could be next in St. Paul as it pertains to this case? Where will ICE give a further statement about maybe some of the people that they detained? Is there any expectation of if they'll be back anytime soon? Do you know? And if you don't know, of course, then that's completely legitimate as well.
It's hard to say. I think we're going to look for any kind of search warrants, any kind of records that would indicate what they were looking for. Sometimes that takes a little while to find, but that tends to shed a lot of light on what the purpose of them being here was. Certainly, if there's any kind of formal charges, that's a lot easier to find sometimes when it's at the local level, and this was not local law enforcement involved. Let me emphasize that. So there is a vigil tomorrow that the protesters are planning, and there's kind of a speak out at 9 a.m. right around that site. So certainly, the public and the protesters are going to keep the heat on. We'll kind of find out when we find out. There was an attorney that was arrested on site, and it was a woman, and we were trying to find out, her name and confirm some facts before we release that. But certainly anything that'll come out there would be public.
Like we said before, details are fuzzy, but the reason we basically know anything about this is because of your excellent reporting, Frederick, so we appreciate you. Where can people, if they want to learn more about this incident or read more of your work, where can people find you?
I'm active at twincities.com, the Pioneer Press, obviously. I've got my Frederick Mello Reporter Twitter account. I'm on Blue Sky, Facebook, so just wherever the socials are, that's where I'll be.
Frederick Mello, the St. Paul City reporter for the Pioneer Press. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I like talking to on-the-ground journalists like that were there, they were active, they saw it all firsthand. There was no hearsay. You saw it all firsthand.
Part of the scene, and it sounds like Mello's got it all covered out there, and will continue to cover it well.
You think he ever goes by Mello?
He's got to, right? That's a sweet name.
Yeah,
it's too sweet to not go by Mello.
Yeah, of course. Sure. Of course. Frederick Mello, go read his work at the Pioneer Press. We are going to take a break here. We are going to ring in our 4 o'clock hour coming up right after this. time for some original content on the afternoon shift. It's our 4 p.m. recap.
Exactly.
We haven't done this in a while.
The most original content that we produce here at the afternoon shift.
We haven't done it in a while. I
missed the 4 p.m. recap.
I know.
It's my fault. I'm usually talking too much. We just steamroll right through it.
But we're on time today.
4 o'clock on the dot.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
We began the show today by talking to Lanny J. Davis. Of course, he was talking about basketball at the end of that. Not to be confused with Laney High School. That's where Michael Jordan went in Williamson, North Carolina.
Okay,
yes.
I didn't realize that.
And then Lanny Davis's son, Seth, the basketball writer, went to Duke.
No way.
There you go.
Look at that.
All in the Tar Heel State.
It all relates back to the lovely sport of basketball.
It does.
It does. Relates back to basketball.
It does. And speaking of basketball, this is a little tease ahead. We're going to get into some basketball in the 4 p.m. hour.
For sure. Timberwolves won big last night.
Yes.
Another blowout victory for them. The guys off the way and far end of the bench getting into games regularly this season because the Timberwolves have been on fire against lesser teams here in the NBA.
So. Yeah, I got so excited to talk about the Timberwolves.
I know you're just throwing your notes around.
It's an amazing stat in the NBA. They're 9-0 against teams below 500, 0-5 against teams above 500. It's unbelievable. It's early. That means it doesn't mean
a whole lot right now.
But it is interesting.
It is interesting, and we'll dissect that a little bit in a second here. But before we get to the Timberwolves, we have actual Wolves to get to as well, don't we?
And they're in the beautiful city of Ely, Minnesota. You ever been to Ely?
I have been to Ely. I think I actually have been to the Wolf Center. Out there. I went there with my daughter when she was a little one, and she was kind of like I don't know, maybe she was a wolf in a former life. The Wolves were very interested in her, and not in a kind of like we want to eat this baby kind of way. It was even the people at the center noted like, wow, they look like very fascinated with her. She kind of became like their leader. I don't know. Maybe she was a wolf.
Are you cool with wolves?
I am. They were my favorite animal. Before I was a Timberwolves fan, I was a fan of the animal wolves. I think that also, like, obviously Minnesota, Kevin Garnett, blah, blah, blah. But I think my love of wolves also is what helped me bring me to the Timberwolves basketball fandom. But I do love wolves. I'm very cool with wolves. But it sounds like the people of Ely maybe not so much.
Not so cool with the Wolves. I got to ask, did you like an NBA team before the Timberwolves? Was there like
I didn't. No. There was no. I mean, everybody, of course, when you're growing up, like the Bulls were ubiquitous.
Sure.
If you grew up in the 90s, you have vague memories. Even for whatever reason, I barely had cable. WGN was one of the channels that I had. We were able to watch Chicago sports up here in Minnesota, so everybody was vaguely familiar with the Bulls. I did kind of just naturally feel like because of the paraphernalia, because of Michael Jordan's connection and everything like that, everybody grew up kind of liking the Bulls unless you were old enough to dislike the Bulls because Michael Jordan was probably torching your favorite team.
Right.
But when you're a real young kid, you grow up with an affinity for the Bulls for sure. Plus, they're in the East. They're no harm to the Timberwolves.
Right.
But eventually, I naturally the Timberwolves were like the first. Well, they were the first Minnesota team that I felt connected to for sure. Football, the Tennessee Titans. I was trying to be a contrarian. But football was kind of the first sport that I became like a diehard fan of. Basketball was the first sport that I played. But the Timberwolves over time became the team that's near and dearest to my heart for sure.
You felt the most connected to the Timberwolves growing up. What team currently do you feel the least connected to of all the Minnesota teams?
That's an easy one. The Minnesota Twins.
Why?
And they did that to me.
They
did that to me. Of course you like the Twins because you're not from here.
I support the Twins.
Good for you.
All the teams.
You support them more than the Poleads do.
I support the. Nobody wants to support the Vikings these days. I'm going to.
You're not hopping off the bandwagon. You're hopping on.
I'm on.
You're hopping on.
Everybody else will hop off. I'm on.
On.
I love JJ.
That's a real.
I do. I've never spoken an L word about JJ. I've just asked questions.
That's true. You're just asking the fair question.
I just asked questions.
You're just
about
asking
JJ.
the fair questions.
Paul Millgate loves JJ McCarthy.
Is that true, Paul?
You like JJ, don't you,
You're a fan
Paul?
of JJ?
Go JJ.
See?
Yeah. See? I love JJ.
You like JJ.
I love JJ.
Yes.
MF plus JJ equals okay.
Yeah.
A-okay.
Yeah.
I'm all in on the JJ train. I have no choice. But I'm not all in on the Minnesota Twins. They're easily the team I feel the least connected to. Shout out to the Minnesota Wild. They're on a hot streak right now. Shout out to the Minnesota Frost.
Sure.
We'll be broadcasting some of their games right here on Fox 9. I believe that was announced earlier today.
Yeah.
The best team in women's hockey. The only team in PWHL history to hoist the Walter Cup. They've won it both years, the inaugural year, and then went back-to-back last year as well. Shout out to the Minnesota Vikings. Just because of the Minnesota Vikings, we love them around here.
Yes.
And, of course, shout out to the Minnesota Timberwolves. unshout out
Yeah.
to the Minnesota Twins.
And you forgot the Minnesota United. They have a
The
playoff
Minnesota
game
United. Listen, they might be the first men's team to bring home a trophy in quite some time.
That's
here.
right. The Minnesota Lynx, of course.
The Minnesota Lynx
and the Aurora,
the best team in town,
and the Aurora.
And shout out to the Minnesota Aurora.
That's your
as
squad.
Well. Yeah,
yes.
I listen. I'm a soccer guy.
Yes,
huge soccer guy.
Yes,
it was a test.
It was a test.
I wanted to make sure you didn't leave out the soccer team.
I think I checked all.
But you were right there. You checked all the boxes. And I just also announced, I believe today as well, pro volleyball team coming to Minnesota as well.
Grace Henry's all over this one. I think she's trying to book somebody for that pro volleyball team.
Interesting.
Yep. I think she's.
I know the Gophers women's team. Shout out to all the Gophers squads as well. I know the Gophers women's volleyball team is pretty damn legit.
Yeah. And what about the St. Thomas squad? Shout out to them too, right?
Sure.
Everybody gets shout outs.
Yeah,
I love St. Thomas.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
They're all right.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm sure they're great too.
There's a little bit of tension between the Gophers and the Tommies. It's very interesting.
I think it's more on their side. We don't really think about them.
It's very interesting.
You know?
This is a very.
I don't want to say we. I'm not part of this whole
Gophers
alumni,
thing.
This Gopher.
You're an alum.
I am an alum,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Some people are a little too connected. You know, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
But I'm not I don't let it blind me.
Got it.
I don't have red and maroon
Gotcha.
goggles on.
Gotcha. Are you blinded to the wolf sightings though? You're keenly aware of these wolf sightings.
I'm very aware of these wolf sightings.
Yeah.
And they're apparently being sighted all across the great city of Ely.
That's right. Krista Wordhide. She's going to have more information on this coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Are dedicating this entire 4 p.m. Hour to wolves.
It's all about wolves on the court in the streets of Ely.
That's right. Several gray wolves have been sighted in Ely over the last month. I think we have video of some of these wolves that are out on the street. There you see, look at that wolf just running on by there. That's probably a little freaky. Oh, is that another one that's on the side there?
Yeah, hanging out.
Yeah, these wolves have been all over Ely. Some residents are fearing that the animals are becoming a little too comfortable around humans. Joining us now is Krista Werhide. She is from the International Wolf Center that is based in Ely, and Krista joins us now. Krista, welcome to the afternoon shift. How are you? And Krista, we see your face. We just cannot hear you. We'll get you here in 1 second. My apologies. Yep, we got Krista, I think, moment. Krista, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
There we go.
Yes, awesome, Krista. Thank you so much. Hey, Krista, wolves, obviously, they're dangerous to humans. Here in Minnesota, they have a little bit of a nicer reputation, I think, because of the success of the basketball team. Are wolves really that dangerous to humans? I mean, are these a threat to us?
You know, they actually aren't. So I think it's really important to kind of take a step back and think about the population of wolves and where we live and where people are seeing them, and then also just the frequency of it. So I can certainly agree and admit that watching wolves trot down the road in Ely and one walked near the school can be a little unsettling. But I do think it's important to think about, we've got about 3,000 wolves in Minnesota. Most of those are in the Arrowhead, so in the northeast kind of corner of Minnesota. So their range goes from far northwest Minnesota kind of down through Hinckley, maybe a little farther south than that. So they are fairly spread out, but a lot of them are here, and Ely is in the heart of wolf country. And so 3,000 wolves, and we really don't see them very often. So that is a good thing. Wolves are neophobic. They're afraid of new things, and that includes people. And there really haven't been any documented cases of wolves killing humans in the lower 48 states, and actually there's only been 2 cases total in North America. So that statistic is pretty startling when you think about the frequency of that really not happening. But I do agree, it can be pretty unsettling to have them walk by.
Krista, what has kind of people's reactions been in the community in Ely with this uptick in wolf sightings?
It has been a little bit all over the board. So a lot of people are like, well, we live in wolf country. We're on the edge of the wilderness. It's why a lot of us live in Ely. So it probably isn't surprising to some people to see a wolf trot by. Other people really have strong feelings that maybe there are too many wolves, or that is hitting a little too close to home. And another thing to really kind of factor in is what else is going on. So wolves are afraid of people. We've talked about that. But they can also be just really, really curious. So why are they hanging out? What are they checking out? Are they becoming habituated? Habituated wolves is something we do not want. Do we want people feeding them? Preferably not. If people are seeing them, is there a negative experience that wolf is having? Or are we accidentally creating a situation where they're like, hey, what's over there? Is there something to eat?
Krista, you just said that we don't want wolves to be habituated. Why exactly is that? I think there's a lot of people that maybe just think that wolves can be like birds and they can just feed them and, kind of create homes for them. Why do we not want that?
Well, as a large predator, they kind of do what you think they're going to do. Sometimes they eat other things. That is their job kind of in the ecosystem. And so having them be in nature and part of the ecosystem is really, really important. But having them eat the right thing is also really, really important. So wolves that are habituated do become accustomed to being close to people. That sometimes can include your pets. And there can be conflicts between wolves and pets. And that's certainly not something anybody wants. And that, again, if you're looking at the big picture of how many wolves, how many pets, how many people are in an area, is really, really uncommon. But I do not want to minimize the kind of trauma in that's really tragic and a really hard situation if your pet were attacked or were to be killed by wolves. So having wolves that are maintaining their natural fear of people and staying in the wilderness is a really important part.
Now, the kind of recent sightings in wolves in Ely have kind of renewed conversation around their endangered status here in Minnesota. And I know it's a big conversation happening federally as well. But we're going to get to that. But I want to take a step back for a second. How did they end up on that endangered list in the first place?
Yeah, they ended up there because as European colonization happened, there was a huge push to eliminate predators from the landscape. And so across almost all of the US, wolves were eliminated. They were killed by people. And it was really, really intentional. And northern Minnesota, up near Ely, kind of in the boundary waters, was really the only place in the lower 48 where wolves had still maintained a population. And it was really because people couldn't find them. Out in the Boundary Waters Wilderness area, there aren't roads. It's a little bit more challenging to access. And from that population, wolves in the Midwest, anyways, had kind of grown and expanded and spread out. So in our kind of geographic area, there are wolves in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan. They are certainly in other states as well, but just in our kind of area, that is where they are from, and of course in Canada as well. But so that is really why they ended up on the endangered species list. And through those protections, those populations grew. Wolves are huge travelers. They disperse from their packs that they're born into, and that's how they grow their population. So as they kind of recovered and those populations were growing again and they were expanding, wolves have been delisted, so taken off of the endangered species list and relisted, put back on the federal endangered species list multiple times. And a lot of that is based on court cases and what constitutes recovery. And I think that is still a huge question that is not really for me to answer. That is at a higher level of kind of the federal level of management and what recovery looks like and what their natural range has been.
Krista, you mentioned delisting and then being relisted. One person that does support delisting is Representative Pete Stauber from Minnesota. He wants state control over populations of the wolves. Him and his constituents report frequent encounters with wolves during hunting. What would sort of be the arguments to delist them from the endangered species list? Is state control over the wolves, is that going to help mitigate problems like maybe ones that you're seeing in Ely?
I think that depends a little bit on how that happens. So when they have been federally delisted and taken off the endangered species list, the management for them goes to the state. So that means that, again, there are wolves in other states, but just focusing on our area in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, when they are delisted, management goes to each individual state. And each state has a management plan. And that management plan can include hunting and trapping of wolves. It might not. There are generally maximum kind of goals of what they want that population to be at, and also a minimum that would trigger changes in that management plan. So if a state was managing a wolf population and that wolf population dropped to whatever that minimum threshold is, they would probably stop any kind of hunting or trapping that was happening in that state until that population rebounded. So that varies a bit by state, and it's really up to each state's management plan for how that happens. And I don't know. I don't know if that would change the wolves that are becoming problem wolves. I think a really key thing to keep in mind is that this was a relatively isolated situation and incident. So the wolves that we're seeing, I have not heard of those same wolves being seen in those areas since that day. They may have just been wandering through. It's possible that they were young and were just curious and kind of checking the place out and wandered back off into the woods. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, but a lot of it for those problem wolves that might be exhibiting bolder behavior and not running when they see people or having conflicts with pets, that habituation and avoiding that is really key. So if you're seeing wolves, whether they're in town or you're out deer hunting or something like that, the key is to make that a negative experience. So I deeply understand this, that it can be really, really cool. And you're like, I just saw this wolf, and you're thinking, wow, that thing, it's not even moving. It's so cool. But the best thing for that wolf is to make that a negative experience, to yell at it, honk your horn, make a ton of noise, make it super, super scary, so that that wolf is like, oh, people are not ideal. And the other thing is that I do think people see them a lot more. It's deer hunting right now. So there's a lot of people out enjoying some pretty great time in the woods. And generally speaking, they're wearing camouflage. There's often deer scents involved. Sometimes, certainly not always, but sometimes there have been bait piles set to draw in whatever you're hunting for. And then in the hopeful event that you're successful, there are gut piles. So again, there's kind of this like, oh, these are kind of positive things that are happening for the wolves. And they're curious and they're like, why does this creature smell so much like deer and I can't eat it? And then there might be a gut pile. So again, that kind of habituation of like, this is not that negative of an experience. So generally speaking, you know, a single observation of a wolf, a sighting of a wolf in town isn't really inherently making that wolf a dangerous wolf.
Make it a negative experience. I'll just show it the Timberwolves Western Conference Finals last year. I'll show them some highlights. That certainly was a negative experience for Timberwolves fans around town. But Krista, you're a fan of wolves. You're in the know. You work at the International Wolf Center there out in Ely. What do you guys do at the International Wolf Center?
We are an education organization. So our whole entire mission and our goal is to educate people about wolves and their ecology and the wolf-human relationship. So we do that through tons and tons of education opportunities, lots of different programming. So we have an interpretive center here in Ely, which is where I am right now. And we have 6 wolves that are under human care that you can come and observe and learn about. We have exhibits and all kinds of other educational opportunities within the center, but we also do a lot of online programming for school students, for lifelong learners, adults through webinars and all kinds of different opportunities that help people learn about wolves in the place where the center is and where I get lucky enough to live.
And we are very lucky to have you at the International Wolf Center. It's one of your favorite places in the whole state.
Yeah, it was a lot. I've been there before with my little one. I was telling Adam off the air. You know, I was actually on there last segment. I brought my daughter there when she was very little, and the wolves were very interested in her, and not in like we want to eat you kind of way. I think she was like a wolf in her past life. I think she became like the leader of the pack. It's a really cool place you guys got out there, Krista.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad you visited.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody should.
Absolutely. Thank you, Krista. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. I don't know if I'm cut out for that Ely, Minnesota lifestyle.
Hey, they're friendly, man.
Oh,
I
don't doubt that they're friendly.
Yeah,
I don't doubt that they're friendly.
chill.
I'm not cool with a wolf walking by my car.
Yeah, they're chill. It's whatever.
You could live in Ely?
Yeah, sure. It's a beautiful city.
It's probably like 0 degrees there right now.
Yeah, beautiful. It's still beautiful.
Yes, you don't want.
Yeah.
You like that?
Oh yeah.
You like that?
I go out there in this.
Krista's.
That's that Minnesota spirit. I go out there in this.
You got
some shorts.
You don't even need a jacket.
Nah, just tuck the afro into the ears. I'm all good, brother.
You're
I'm
good?
all good. Me and the Wolves.
Yes, Ely. I'll stay in Minneapolis.
The Wolves are in Minneapolis as well.
They are in Minneapolis. They're in Minneapolis tomorrow night. They play the Washington Wizards, 1-12. This should be a win.
Nothing like a shot in the arm for
Yes.
your team, and like playing the Washington Wizards. They
Yes.
have one single win, which happens to be against the Wolves' opponents last night.
That's right. We are going to talk some Timberwolves coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere. Please, we're covering the whole state of Minnesota today.
Yes, sir. Yes. Everything Wolves in the 4 o'clock hour.
Yes, yeah. We even had some live pictures from Washington D.C. in the 3 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow we're going to be welcoming in the Washington Wizards to the Target Center,
who are anything but magical.
To play the red hot Minnesota Timberwolves. 5 wins in their last 6 games. Just rolled over the Dallas Mavericks last night, 120-96. 6 players scored in double figures. It was a good night for the Timberwolves.
Absolutely, and that's always a good sign. And it seems redundant and kind of self-explanatory to say, but the Wolves, when you have guys 4, 5, 6 guys in double digits, that's when the Wolves are playing their best basketball. Some teams' success is predicated on one guy scoring all the points. You know, think back to the Houston Rockets not that long ago when James Harden basically they lived and died on the success of James Harden. Well, this Timberwolves team plays the best when they're not playing hero ball, when the ball isn't too sticky, when everybody's getting a little touch of the rock. Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, Anthony Edwards, and Naz Reid as well, who was perhaps the best of the best throughout the bunch. It was pretty much a back-and-forth game throughout the first quarter and a half until Naz Reid got in the game. I think he scored something like 10 points in his first 6 minutes.
Yeah. His second double-double in his last 3 games. He scored a season-high 22 points last night. I know that Naz, he's kind of started the season a little inconsistent. He's been kind of a shining light here with the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely. He's a fan favorite for a reason. I've never seen a player, and every team has their unsung heroes, their fan favorites. I've never seen a player in almost any sport have the relationship with the crowd that Naz Reid has here in Minnesota. It literally, I know people use this phrase a lot, it should be studied by sociologists, anthropologists, whoever. It really should be studied. And that played a major factor in why he wanted to come back to Minnesota. He was a highly coveted player. I would imagine almost all of the 30 teams in the NBA could have used a Naz Reid type player. This is a starting level caliber guy, a guy that by all means should be in a starting lineup of a team, and he's willingly the first man off the bench for this Minnesota Timberwolves, in part because of his special relationship with the crowd. I mean, we've seen people bring those Naz Reid tiles to frickin' Machu Picchu, to other countries, you know, to other sporting events, at WrestleMania, at the Super Bowl. I mean, it's everywhere. The connection he has with the crowd is special. And yeah, like you said, he started off the season pretty slow. I think a lot of us, knowing what happened to Naz Reid in his personal life, he lost his sister tragically during the summer. Anybody can understand why you'd be a little bit shaky coming out of the gates there. He's dealing with a lot of stuff in his personal life. So it's really good to see Naz Reid. This felt like the first, I know it's kind of in the Timberwolves fandom, it's become a patented thing to call it a Naz Reid game. It's one of those things that doesn't have a definition, but you know it when you see it. Like that when the Supreme Court justice said one time about adult videos. You know it when you see it. I can't describe it, but you know it when you see it. You know a Naz Reid game when you see one, and last night was a quintessential Naz Reid game. And that was the Naz Reid that we've come to know and love. That's instant offense off the bench. Whenever the Wolves need a bucket, Naz Reid comes off the bench, and he pretty much right away he gets in the game, shoots it, and sometimes that could be problematic. Say if you're a guy like D'Angelo Russell who's struggling with the Dallas Mavericks, but with Naz Reid, it's almost always cash money. You hear Michael Grady on the call saying cash. It's off to the races from there, and that's basically how it was for the Timberwolves last night, 120-96. Again, I mean they're blowing out all these lesser teams, and that's kind of the standard for the Timberwolves on how they're going to finish a season, how they're going to do in a season. Seasons they finish in the upper echelon, the 1, 2, 3, 4 seed in the Western Conference. They beat the bad teams. This is something we saw 2 years ago. But for most of the Timberwolves tenure, even when they are successful, they kind of struggle. They play down to their opponents. They have a bad habit of playing down to their opponents. We saw that last year and 3 years ago. That kind of dropped them down to the lower echelon of the Western Conference, where you're in the 6th, 7th, 8th seed, possibly in that play-in tournament. So it bodes well that they're not just beating and getting by the skin of their teeth against these lesser teams. They're putting their foot on their necks. Guys like Joan Berenger, Johnny Juzang, Bones Highland, they're getting in the games frequently. And it's great for a guy like Joan Berenger, who hopefully will be the successor for Rudy someday, to get in these games kind of in low-stakes situations, get used to the NBA speed and whatnot, because the Timberwolves are just spanking these bad teams. But on the flip side of that coin, like we talked about a little bit ago at the top of the hour, they're winless against the best of the best. They've lost a couple to the Denver Nuggets, as well as losing to the Los Angeles Lakers as well. So you want to see them fare better against the upper echelon teams in the Western Conference, because those are the teams they're going to be facing off against in the playoffs. So they want to have another deep playoff run. But it is a good sign when when they're beating down on lesser teams like the Dallas Mavericks, who have not been very good this season and are injury riddled. I mean, there was no Anthony Davis last night. Obviously, no Kyrie Irving. He's out for an extended period of time. Cooper Flagg looks like he looks all right. Yeah, he looks like he's finally he's coming along. He's not going to be like a rookie sensation setting the world on fire right out of the gate. But you never know how he's going to fare. I'm rooting for the kid. I hope it works out well for him. Dallas has kind of just been in a state of, I mean, it's just been chaotic ever since they traded Luka Doncic. It's been chaotic. They just fired their GM, Nico Harrison. Obviously all the injuries to Anthony Davis. There are reports already, just a month into the season, that they're probably going to have a fire sale at the trade deadline. Something maybe the Timberwolves should look out, keep their eyes open for, in case there might be somebody going on a sale there on a discount, because the Mavericks do have some pretty talented players there. But that's down the road in the future, in the immediate future for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tomorrow night they're playing against one of the worst teams in the NBA, the Washington Wizards, but not the worst team by winning percentage. That would actually be
the Pacers, I think.
The Indiana Pacers, who were in the NBA Finals just over the summer. On the loss of Tyrese Halliburton. Again, we talked about it with Lamar Jackson, how his absence kind of proves that he is the MVP, because his absence turned the Ravens into a bottom-feeding team. Talk about the absence proving how valuable a guy is. A team that was in the NBA freaking Finals a few months ago. It was not that long ago. June was not that long ago. And now they have one win. And it was already going to be a long shot that he played this season. I would imagine that he's not going to play this season. But Washington is down there. They've been one of those franchises that they've kind of been bad for most of our existences. I'm 31 years old. There's only a few years in that 31 years that they've been even kind of respectable.
Yeah, Gilbert Arenas isn't walking through that door.
Exactly. Gilbert
Michael Jordan isn't walking through that door.
40-year-old Michael Jordan ain't walking through that door. John Wall, he ain't doing ain't doing none of that. He ain't hitting the Dougie. No. It's a different day. It's a different day in Washington, and hopefully the Timberwolves continue this trend of beating up on bad teams.
Yeah, the Timberwolves, like we said, 9-0 against teams below 500, 0-5 against teams above 500. Their next chance to beat a team above 500 will actually be Friday night at Phoenix. Phoenix is 8-6. But the game that everybody's really, really, really looking forward to, because after that, Monday, you got at Sacramento. They're bad.
For sure.
Next Wednesday, this is your little Thanksgiving appetizer.
Ooh,
so
what's
you
that?
have Thanksgiving dinner Thursday. The night before, you got the Timberwolves at the Thunder. The Thunder are 14-1.
Yeah.
They're 14-1. National television game. That's the game. That's sort of the litmus test. You can kind of see where you're at,
Absolutely.
Right?
And obviously, they're the team that sent us packing last year in the Western Conference Finals. Gentleman sweep, 4-1. So obviously, they weren't even close necessarily to the Thunder's level. And I say that kind of with a little bit of hyperbole, because if you watch some of those games, they were, tit for tat for a little bit there in those games. But that is the true measuring test right there. That's the litmus test to see if you can hang with the big dogs in the NBA this season. It'll be must-see TV. That's one of the Wolves' chief rivals over the last couple of years, and especially this year. That's the team that you have your sights set on, that you want to beat. They also happen to be in the Wolves bracket for the Western Conference NBA Cup bracket, where the Wolves are currently leading 2-0 right now. But that's only because the Thunder have only played one NBA Cup game. But could be we'll see them face off just a little bit before Thanksgiving, but it could be something that we see in the NBA Cup semifinals, I guess, possibly in Vegas, maybe even a rematch.
No doubt. You also mentioned Rudy Gobert earlier. I think another note going with these wins and losses.
Yeah.
In their 9 wins, which are all against the teams below 500, Rudy Gobert averaging 13 points and 11 rebounds. In their 5 losses, again, these are teams above 500, he's only averaging 6 points and 7 rebounds. It's almost like as Rudy goes, the Timberwolves going away.
Yeah, for sure. When he's involved offensively, this team is hard to beat. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the stats right in front of me. I'll look it up right now. I'd imagine the Timberwolves are probably top 5 in team scoring offense this season. They've been scoring in the high numbers, because when you have Rudy Gobert involved in that offense, it's a pretty unstoppable offense. When you got Anthony Edwards, you got Julius Randle, you got a newfound Jaden McDaniels that found that confidence in last year's playoff run, and he's kind of picked up where he left off throughout this regular season. He's been amazing. This is his best offensive season thus far, just only a month or early into the season, obviously, but I would imagine that trajectory is going to continue. But yeah, we want to see Rudy get involved. We saw the Timberwolves go on a crazy tear at the end of last year's regular season, and a big part of that reason was Rudy was averaging 15 and 10 over like a month span, and that was going right into the playoffs, and then MIA. You had to put out an APB to find Rudy Gobert throughout the next couple of months, the next couple of rounds throughout the play.
What's that?
That's like when you're searching for somebody. When it's almost like a warrant. It's like you're looking for somebody.
Gotcha.
Where's Rudy? I can't find him. We had to put him on the back of the milk carton. We couldn't find him throughout that Timberwolves playoff run. And had he showed up, it could have been a completely different series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's kind of been the name of the game for Rudy Gobert. It's just coming up big in those big moments when they need him. He can do. The Timberwolves are being judged at a different scale right now, so he can do whatever he wants between now and May. But we want to see him show up in May.
No doubt. Wolves continue to see how the Timberwolves fare.
Yeah,
like I said,
6 of the last 7.
Yes, yeah. Winners of 6 of their last 7. Tomorrow versus Washington, that should be 7 out of 8. And then Friday night, they could finally break this stretch of not beating teams above 500. They have a chance against the Phoenix Suns, who are just barely above 500. But a win is a win. It counts.
A winning team is a winning team, and it would be another W in their belt in this NBA Group Cup stage.
Yes, yeah. The sports, they're heating up in Minnesota. It's just the Vikings just kind of need to do their part.
They're the only ones that's not holding their weight. The Wild have been on fire. I think they've won they're 6-1-1 over their last 8, something like that.
Turned to November.
Exactly.
Pretty much since Jesse was here.
Exactly.
Been on fire,
the calendar flip, and then we'll have to call her up so we can actually talk about some good Wild news. I feel like every time we've had her on so far this season, it's been a pretty negative tenor on the conversation, and rightfully so. We got to call her up maybe this week for some good Wild conversation.
They play one of the best teams in the NHL tomorrow night, the Carolina Hurricanes.
Maybe we should holler at Jesse for that one. But the Timberwolves, the exact opposite, playing one of the worst teams in the league tomorrow night. So hopefully that's 7 of the last 8 after tomorrow night.
And you're hosting a meet and greet tomorrow night against the Wizards, right? At halftime at the Target Center. And the Target Center Club, the nice club that they have for the club seats.
Nobody would show up to that one.
What are you talking about?
Nobody would show up to that meet and greet.
That's not true.
There's probably more people at a Washington Wizards game than that would show up to that meet and greet.
I doubt.
I don't think so.
I doubt this. We're trying to market it. Where's the lower third on the Maxx meet and greet? No, it's not happening. One day it'll happen. Okay, we are going to go to break, and we are going to come back and have more of the afternoon shift. Don't go anywhere. shift. It is almost 4:41. It's been a packed show today. We've had a lot of good stuff.
All types of good stuff. So much good stuff that we're going to bring it back to the top of the show just in case you missed it. We talked to Bill Clinton's former advisor on all things crises. And obviously, that is very timely for everything that's happening. If you've read the news at all, there's all types of scandals going on involving the White House and in Washington, D.C. So we talked to him. Let's play that clip back.
Mr. Davis, welcome to the afternoon shift. How are you, sir?
Thank you. I was going to add that when I get a phone call, it's never, "Hey, Lanny, I've got great news for you."
Except for this one. Except for this one. We're happy to have you here on the afternoon shift. You are a very high-profile attorney, lots of big clients. We're bringing you on here to obviously talk about the Epstein case. Maybe we'll just start out with this. What do we know so far about this case?
What's very bizarre is the only thing we know is very non-harm facts about President Trump. He was a friend of Epstein before anybody knew that he was a subhuman species who was a predator of young women, young girls. And at that time, I don't think that Donald Trump, there's any evidence that he knew that. They were friends. There were many photographs of them. That's facts he can't delete. I don't know why he doesn't just say, yes, we were friends. No, I didn't know that he was a predator. And then he wouldn't be in the fix he's in.
Now, we've seen kind of a stunning reversal from Donald Trump in terms of he was holding private meetings with Republicans, trying to get them to not put their signature on this to get the files released. And now all of a sudden he's saying that they should be released. We have nothing to hide. Do you think, like, as someone that would have been in this situation, kind of advising him in the past, like, do you think that reversal helps or harms him?
Well, it's compounded his problem. Normally he's brilliant at branding. He really does have instincts in the public relations arena from his experiences in New York. It's one of the few compliments I'm willing to give Mr. Trump is he's always understood the need to get out in front of a bad story. But on this occasion, he seems to have doubled down on violating all the fundamental rules of Crisis Management 101, and it's a mystery to me. It looks like he's trying to hide something, but he's not. So then I can't understand why he's mishandled it the way he has.
Mr. Davis, if you were advising the president right now, if you were on his legal team, what would be your message to him?
It's never too late to make a course correction. In crisis management, usually there are mistakes made in the beginning where you try to hide bad facts thinking that they're not going to come out. And my rule of thumb is they are going to come out, so you might as well put them out yourself and explain them. And if there's no explanation because they're so bad, you own them. And it's a pretty simple formula, but it's counterintuitive. Now I would say to President Trump, you've already compounded your problem by making it seem as if you're hiding something. You can't undo what you've already done. I would hold a press conference and say, I really screwed up. I had nothing to hide. I knew Epstein. We were friends at Mar-a-Lago and in New York, but I never had anything to do with his younger women. I repudiate and denounce what he did. And I don't know why anyone is accusing me of wrongdoing because I did nothing wrong other than not being a very good crisis manager. Something like that would be helpful if he was willing to do that. Of course, I don't think he is willing to do that.
So say the House votes yes as expected today. Kind of what's the next steps from there? What do you think President Trump does from there?
He's already compounded the issue by having the House do anything. All he needs to do is announce and put the documents out. He hasn't explained why he needs the House or the Senate other than his effort to try to stop them from putting something out when he wasn't willing to. But if he's willing to, why is he waiting for the House and the Senate? Why doesn't he hold a press conference, bring in all the boxes? This is what I did at one point in my career. And I invite in all the media. Here are all the boxes of all the documents. I just got them over from the Justice Department. Open them up, read them all. I'll be back in an hour to answer all your questions. Now, that's a man who has nothing to hide. He's doing the right thing in crisis management rules, which is to get your facts out early yourself and get it over with and end the story. So that's what he should have done, what he still could do. He doesn't have to wait for the House, for goodness sakes. Why is he waiting for anyone? He can call Pam Bondi and say, send the boxes over. So that's my advice to him, but I don't think he's listening to people like me.
You never know. The president could be watching the afternoon shift.
I doubt it, but you never know.
You never know. Mr. Davis, let's just speak hypothetically here. Let's say the president. Let's say it comes out that obviously he said he was friends with him. He was a member at his club in Palm Beach, Mar-a-Lago. They were friendly. He dropped him from Mar-a-Lago after he says that he discovered that all of these allegations kind of came across with him. If that's what comes out, what do you think? What's sort of the aftermath of this? What do you think happens to the president going forward?
I think if he owns that he made mistakes, which I don't think he's ever done, it's against his basic nature to admit a mistake. But if he does that, it's over. This story has never had any legs as soon as he admitted, yes, I knew Epstein. Yes, I didn't like what he did with young women now that I've read about it, young girls. And that's over. So that's really the only answer I can give you is he can cut the losses. There's no way to undo the damage he's done to himself by acting as if he has something to hide, which everybody knows that's the way he's acted. But he has nothing to hide other than he doesn't want people to know he was a friend of Epstein's. Well, there are plenty of photographs we already know, so why deny that? So I don't think there's anything to lose by his just doing the right thing and undoing the damage. But he seems to have this instinct to make things worse by not stepping up and saying, I really messed up by acting like I had something to hide. I was a friend of this guy. I don't approve of what he did. But I don't think he'll do that because it's contrary to his nature to take responsibility.
Now, we keep saying, like, if you were advising the president, you were advising a former president back in the day, former President Bill Clinton. Kind of take us through kind of like what your day-to-day was like. Like, what was your job like advising the president?
Early on, I worked on campaign finance, alleged violations or abuses in his presidential campaign of 1996. So when I inherited the job, there were a lot of stories unwritten about some of the mistakes made in raising money, which is never a pretty thing in any campaign, Republican or Democrat. So what we ended up doing is finding all of the somewhat ill-advised or mistaken campaign fundraising stories that reporters were working on. We identified which ones we thought were coming from the reporters themselves. And we volunteered the documents and systematically put the stories out ourselves. Sometimes we would use the word leak by calling a reporter and say, would you like to write a story? Here are all the documents. In other cases, we would respond to the reporter writing the story and say, well, hand you over all the documents so you can write a complete and accurate story. In other words, we were proactive, even volunteering bad stories that they hadn't known about, because we wanted to get it all over with before the Senate held nationally televised hearings. When the late Senator Fred Thompson of Tennessee conducted those hearings, he made a joke at one point saying, today we're having a topic about fundraising tactics that even Lanny Davis won't say is old news. And of course, that brought a lot of laughter in the room. But that was the strategies to make everything old news by putting the bad facts out ourselves.
It's a good strategy, not just for political leaders, but I think for all of us to kind of it really boils down to just owning your mistake and admitting your mistakes when they happen and moving on from them. And, Mr. Davis, the President Trump, he's certainly had his share of scandals before, and it doesn't really seem to stop him. He continues to win elections and remains for his party, for certain members of his party, wildly popular. Do you think that the Epstein files can bring him down necessarily, or do you think that this is just going to be sort of another kind of wind in the dust when it's all said and done?
Everybody knows what the truth is. It's one of those things where the truth is so obvious that nobody needs, even his supporters know that he's embarrassed about his friendship with Mr. Epstein. And Mr. Epstein and he had many photographs together when they were friends. So there's no mystery. It's not as if he's revealing anything new. What's remarkable is he's acting as if we don't already know that he's embarrassed by all these photographs and all these emails that will reference him. But so far, there's been no evidence that he participated in this disgusting behavior involving young girls. And it looks to me that he is disapproved of this behavior. So why not just own that he had a friendship with Epstein, and now he's repudiating all of the disgusting behavior and exploitation, and honor the victims and talk about the victims? If I were giving him advice, I guess he's not asking for my advice. I would say, just step up, Mr. President, and talk to the victims and take responsibility for not doing this yourself earlier by putting all these documents out yourself. You didn't need a resolution in Congress. All you had to do is, Pam Bondi said she was going to do it, and all of a sudden she froze when they might have said, oh my God, his name are in these emails. So what? He should have said, put them out and I'll explain why my name are in these documents. That's looking back in history. Now he can't do anything other than simply own, I really messed up, I had nothing to hide. That would be the only way he gets out of this in any way that doesn't have damage. And I don't think he escapes damage.
Lanny.
That was Lanny Davis talking about the Epstein files, and obviously Mr. Davis, a very high-profile attorney for some of the most big people in Washington and around the country.
Yeah, we missed the best part. He was just about to talk about his time being an aide to President Clinton, but we had to get. I guess we had to get up out of there.
I just like Lanny. We gotta sell commercials. I think sometimes too. Maybe yes.
Why not?
Yes. We're gonna go to commercial. And we're gonna come back and we will close out today's show. Afternoon shift, Tuesday, November 18th. We covered a wide range of topics today, Max.
We covered it all, from wolves to wolves.
From wolves to wolves.
How about that?
The whole 4 p.m. hour, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From Eli to Epstein.
Yes.
Everything in between.
Yes, we did. We really nailed it, and we got it all. I was trying to do something from Mickey Mouse, from Steamboat Willie. Happy 97th birthday, Mickey Mouse. Yeah. Yes.
What can we do with that one?
Yeah.
Mickey to Minnesota.
Mickey to Minnesota. I got to start coming up with some of these myself. Yeah,
it's okay.
So, it's
okay. Yeah, it's a good bit to just kind of work it out.
Yes.
On-air production.
Yes. We are going to tomorrow. We're going to have a great show tomorrow and the rest of this week. We got some really good stuff coming up. Mike Manzoni. A lot of you all know him from the Fox 9 News. If you watch the evening news, you probably see all of his good reporting. He'll be joining us in studio for the very first time tomorrow.
Wow.
He's working on a really big story involving child care, daycare abuse, pretty much by people, and it's a real investigative piece. Yes,
nightmare situation for all the parents out there.
Yes,
sure. I know that's it's among our chief concerns when we drop our little ones off every day to go to work and then keep the lights on and everything. We trust these people to be in charge of our kids, and if something goes wrong, that's obviously a very scary situation.
No doubt. He'll be joining us tomorrow. Then the Minnesota Ballet Theater, which is located right here in the beautiful suburb of Eden Prairie, Minnesota. They're put on the Nutcracker every single holiday season. You could get behind the Nutcracker.
Sure.
You could get behind it.
Yeah,
it's very traditional,
sure.
traditional ballet.
Yes. Yeah, I like the music. I've never seen the Nutcracker.
Yes.
You always hear the music. It's ubiquitous around Christmas time.
Yes.
Ever present, omnipresent even. But I've never seen the Nutcracker in person. Have you?
I have. I saw it at Lincoln Center in New York. It was a real very fancy event, champagne, the whole deal. This one will be very fancy too. We're going to be joined tomorrow by the artistic director, as well as, and I was told she is an absolute just beacon of light and a firecracker. She's 11 years old.
Wow.
She is one of the stars of the Nutcracker. She's got a lot to share. She'll join us tomorrow too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
So
shout out to her. I would have been totally. I would have got myself kicked off of TV if I was ever allowed on TV at 11 years old. So shout out to her.
Yes. Yeah. It's gonna be a great show tomorrow. And a great shows the rest of this week. But we're about to go on a little break here, Max.
Yeah, we're about to go on just a tiny bit of a hiatus.
Yes.
A 23-hour. Is that even right anymore? In other words, is it 22?
22.
You've noticed that this whole time. You never corrected me.
No,
this is
because it's
why
all
I
good.
don't like y'all.
No.
Because listen, there's times when I look at this camera, my afro looks terrible. There's stuff in my afro. You knew I was wrong for months.
No, I like
Didn't
it.
say anything.
I liked it
Didn't
though.
say anything.
It was part of the
I
charm.
can't trust y'all.
It was
I can't trust y'all at
charm.
all. But you know who I can trust?
It was the charm.
You know who I can trust?
Kelsey and Simone.
I can always trust them. They would tell me if I had something in my hair. They would tell me if I was doing my math wrong. But my math isn't wrong this time. My math tells me we got 15 seconds until the 5 o'clock news. So we got to sign off. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. I'm Max Fuller.
Adam Llorens.
Yeah, Paul and Grace too. Yeah, whatever. The 5 o'clock news, it starts. Oh, my math is wrong. Maybe it starts now. Oh, no, it starts now.
This is Fox 9 News at 5.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here at 5 o'clock. I'm Simone Woolridge.
And I'm Kelsey Carlson. We are following several developing stories today. So let's get to the latest headlines here. ICE and other federal agents responding to a business in St. Paul today. A protest was held outside where several people were hurt. Our Karen Scullin speaking with Mayor Carter in the last hour, and we'll have the very latest on what happened there. Also, Bloomington police arresting more than a dozen men in what they are calling Operation Creep. Details on this undercover investigation.